you would deduct that from that. Okay, so let's quickly see how we work it out. So we take, let me just see if I've done the calculation. So you take the 28,700, and because D is negative 5,700, you would deduct it from that. Now, in my formula on the left, I've added it together because I've already indicated it's a negative, but that's how you would get to the 22,960, and then you apply the same principle for B, C, and D, but D would now increase to the 57,400. That was the portion that he's taken from the other members. And then to get the total new funds, you just add their contribution to their current retained earnings percentage to get their new fund totals. Okay, so that is how you work out the members' funds if there is an addition. Okay, do you guys have any questions on if I add a new member to our CC before we move on to someone that's resigned? Sorry, the 57,400? Okay, so the 57,400, the question is it only for member D or is it the total? No, so it's only for member D. The total here is 0. Okay, so there's no movement in that line item. The only movement is, let me then just color code it differently here. So if I add the 5,740, the 22,960, and the 28,700, then you get to, let's see, let me just move this. Then you'll see there at the bottom it shows it's 57,400, which is the 57,400 here. Okay, so it's whatever's to the left of it, just add it together. Okay, and that's why the net movement, if we look at that line item, is 0, because we haven't actually increased retained earnings. We've just allocated from member A, B, and C to member D. Okay, the guys online, do you have any questions on if we add a member? Okay, then we're going to move on to scenario number 2. And then we'll take a break and then continue. Okay, so scenario number 2, they tell you that member B has resigned. Okay, now when member B resigned, what I said is we do not actually relocate the retained earnings between member A and C. We are paying out the full equity to member B, so there will be 0 equity for member B. Now, how do we actually then determine what is the member's percentage interest subsequently? We will then say, okay, 10% of the remaining 60%, so it's the 10 plus the 50 is 60, will then be apportioned. The 40,000 will then be apportioned based on their current weighting, and that will then be the additional percentage you add to their interest holding. Okay, so let's have a look at how do you do the calculation. So we said initially member A had 10%, member B had 40%, member C had 50%. Now, if member B resigns, we know he is disposing of his 40%, which means his new interest is 0. Now, to work out how much interest A is acquiring, we know that the remaining interest that is left over after B has left is if you take the 10% and you take the 50%, you get 60% that is remaining. Okay, so now we are going to apportion that 40% based on their current weighting in the CC. So I'm going to take the 10% that member A has, divide it by 60, and then multiply it with the 40% to work out what is the new portion I've acquired, which is then 6.67%. Okay, which means that after B has left, A's new interest holding is now going to be 16.67%. Whereas member C, on the other hand, we will have 50 over 60 multiplied with the 40, which gives us 33.33%. Now, if you add all of this together, that movement should also be a 0. So what goes out needs to come into the CC, and then the new interest, if you add it all together, you should get back to a total of 100% to know that you've done the allocation correctly. Okay, so are you all okay with the explanation? How do you work out the additional portion they add to the interest? Okay, now if we look at the equity, okay, let me just merge this and wrap it here. So for the equity, because of the fact that nothing has actually changed with their member funds, because we are paying out this amount here, this 44,000 and 14,800 would have been paid out to member B. We do not do anything else with the equity of member A and member C because of the fact that that equity has been paid out of the CC and is no longer there. Okay, so all that it means is when someone resigns, only the interest percentage is updated in the business itself. Okay, guys online, do you have any questions on scenario 2? Okay, so we're going to take a 10-minute break. If you can be back 11, then we'll continue with scenario 3 and discuss that when there's an internal transfer.